Donc, bienvenue à la conférence plénière de la journée EPHN 2020 qui se tient donc le 2 octobre, après de nombreux rebondissements, et où nous allons travailler sur la mise en œuvre des humanités numériques dans les pratiques pédagogiques. Et nous avons le plaisir ce matin d'accueillir Claire Warwick, qui est professeure en humanités numériques et qui a eu une carrière impressionnante. Elle vient du département d'anglais. Elle a longtemps travaillé à UCL, au département des Information Studies, et elle a dirigé le Centre pour les humanités numériques, Center for Digital Humanities, à UCL. Et elle s'intéresse particulièrement à la manière dont on mobilise les ressources numériques dans le domaine des humanités et de ce qu'on appelle en anglais le cultural heritage, donc tout ce qui est le patrimoine, aux usages des réseaux sociaux et aux pratiques de lecture. Et donc, ça l'a amené à travailler de manière très intéressante, à la fois sur les modes de lecture, la muséographie, l'archéologie, la recherche documentaire, les pratiques des usagers et le maniement de Twitter. Donc, un spectre très, très large. Et elle a aussi, évidemment, une large expérience en matière d'enseignement à partir du numérique. La dernière chose que je vais citer, c'est l'ouvrage collectif de 2006, Digital Humanities in Practice, publié à Londres, et qui va nous amener à la conférence qu'elle va nous donner aujourd'hui en anglais, intitulée Binary Codes. Thank you very much, Professor Warwick, for being with us. And the floor screen is yours.
Thank you very much.
We have, it's good, we're hearing you.
Okay, great, fantastic. I wish I could be in Paris with you, but in this particular situation, I'm here in Cambridge. I'm sorry that the background behind me is dark, but it being England, it's raining and miserable. So I would much rather be in Paris with you, but I will do my best to create a connection between us one way or another. So today I'm going to talk, as Claire said, about my experience of teaching digital humanities, of creating master's courses in particular for digital humanities in England. So I will start. I will just start with the typical slide about defining digital humanities, since we I think we all pretty much do that these days. I'm looking forward to a time when it's not actually necessary to produce a definition, but anyway, this is the one I use, which is that I consider digital humanities to be applying digital technologies or computational research methods to research in the arts and humanities, but also in cultural heritage practice, as Claire said, in areas of things like archaeology, museology, galleries, those kind of areas. I also think it's important that we think about using what we might call traditional humanities methods to study digital objects. As Claire said, I've done some work on Twitter. Presently, I've just got that's the screenshot of my book, which is rather old now, but I kind of put it there because, in a sense, we start the book by saying we don't really want to define digital humanities. Lots of people have done that better somewhere else, but that's why I put it there. But at the moment, I'm doing the kind of digital humanities that's using humanities methods because I'm writing a book on the history of cyberspace, particularly in the 1990s. So I guess I've done both sorts of digital humanities, and I think it's very important that we do think about it in both senses, especially when we're thinking about teaching. And also that digital humanities really aims to create new knowledge in whatever part of the partnership one is working. So it's not just humanities scholars doing important research and computer people running around after them, fixing their databases or whatever, or nice people from museums lending the objects. It has to be something that's meaningful for everybody who's collaborating. So, okay, we got that out of the way. Now we can talk about more interesting things. I am going to talk on the basis of my experience of teaching digital humanities, particularly in the context of what we used to do at UCL, so the MA/MSc in Digital Humanities at UCL, that was interesting in the sense that I don't think before or since there have been many courses, well, before we did it, there had not been any courses that were, that gave you a qualification either in an arts and humanities domain, which is the MA, or an MSc, which is a course which gives you a science qualification. So at that time, this was when we set it up, this was at the beginning of, I think, 2011. We were already saying that digital humanities needs to straddle the disciplinary boundaries. At Durham, we are literally starting this year what is a digital humanities course, but very much in the context of science. So as you can see, we're starting a master's in what is called data science, but in digital humanities data science. And that's very interesting because it's being run as part of our Institute for Data Science, which is in itself a product of physics, our Department of Physics, and their collaborations at CERN in terms of particle physics and computational cosmology. So in a sense, what we're doing with digital humanities at Durham is we're taking it right into the science domains, as well as it being very much anchored in the humanities. So that again is a different development, and I'm going to talk about why we're doing that sort of thing shortly. The other logos that I've put across the bottom of here are recognition that I've actually been, I realized that the first time I taught digital humanities, as it then wasn't called, it was then called humanities computing. The first time I taught that was in 1996 when I was doing a postdoc at the University of Oxford. So I've got Oxford there, from which I moved to the University of Sheffield, information studies. So I was teaching, again, it wasn't called digital humanities at the time. I was teaching some digital humanities in the context of various courses in librarianship, information science, digital journalism, no, e-journalism as we called it then. DHSI is, some people may have been to it, I guess, but a very successful international summer school called the Digital Humanities Summer Institute, run by my dear friend and colleague, Ray Siemens in the University of Victoria in Canada. So I've taught at DHSI for a couple of years, and I've seen how it's developed over the years. So again, I'll be reflecting on some of that. And at the moment, I am the external examiner for a master's course at the University of Glasgow, which has long been a leader in digital humanities. I'm not sure how these things are organized in France, but in England, every course, every degree course, whether for undergraduates or postgraduates, has to have an external person who is the kind of, you know, the external assessor, if you like, just to see that everything is being done properly. So at the moment I'm doing that at Glasgow, but I've had experience of working at King's College London and various other places. Equally advising as an external on courses at places in Ireland, at University College Cork and at Trinity College Dublin. I've done a little bit of advice for Yale University and things like that. So I'm not going to go on about that, but the point is it's largely an Anglo-American frame of reference that I'm going to be talking about. This is not to say I have any kind of prejudice against digital humanities in Europe. It's just that it's the discipline has grown up historically in that Anglo-American frame, and I think, you know, we need to think about how it grows outside that. In fact, I was teaching at a summer school in Heidelberg last summer, so it'll be interesting to see how European digital humanities develops from that kind of very Anglo-American dominated context. Right, excuse me if I'm sounding a little coldy. I have not got COVID, I promise. I just have a cold. Right, next one. So I think, taking in my title of binary codes, what I was trying to express there is the sense that I think more and more we are aware that digital humanities must exist in different contexts and in different different disciplinary worlds. And so here I've just produced a little table where I'm kind of summarizing some of the differences and some of the ways that disciplines tend to organize themselves. I think this is actually important for thinking about how we teach our students, how we educate our graduates, because digital humanities doesn't live fully in any disciplinary world. If we think about the fact that in traditional humanities, as we know, it tends to be dominated by single scholar research and single scholar activity. You know, the humanities scholar thinks of themselves as it's the romantic image of the author, the single great authority, the genius, as it were, which is very different from science, of course, which, as we know, is very much team-based. The more important you are, the larger you have, a larger research group you tend to have. So where does digital humanities sit in that? Well, largely it's team-based. And I think it has to be in most cases, because it's very hard to do single scholar digital humanities unless you are doing the kind of thing that I'm doing at the moment, which is writing a book about digital phenomena. But if you want to actually produce digital artifacts or work in kind of digital scientific areas, you really have to collaborate with computer scientists, maybe other different sorts of scientists in terms of archaeology, GIS. We also have a fantastic project at Durham where they're using raster scanners, a technique developed in chemistry, to understand how the pigments for early manuscripts have developed. And that is a collaboration between chemistry and book history. So I think this is one of the important things that students really